This is Common Sense Radio. Straightforward and no excuses.
All right. Come on now.
This is the Steve Gruber Show.
Call me crazy.
Oh, yeah.
What I said was perfectly right and spot on accurate.
Boy's got a mouth like a cannon, always shooting it all.
Stop. Yeah, stop. I mean, you're way off script.
Got it in me. Gonna quit until it all comes out.
Hey, boy!
Long education.
Yeah, you know, it's not cynical. It's common sense.
Pay attention to me when I'm talking to you.
I'm gonna rock the nation. Rock the nation.
Genuine, accountable, and raw. Here is Steve Gruber.
All right, and welcome to it, my friends. It is the day after Super Tuesday. The day after Super Tuesday, a big day for Donald Trump, but some big surprises out there as well. Of the 11 states, Trump only secures 7. He gets Arkansas, Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, Massachusetts, Vermont, and Virginia. Ted Cruz picks up 3 states. Bit of a surprise, I think, to some. Texas he had to have. He holds on to Oklahoma and then picks up Alaska as well. And Marco Rubio, who many thought would not win a single place, came on late to win in Minnesota. So, Donald Trump needed about 300 delegates to really have a crushing victory across the country. He picked up 285. 285. And for all of that, Chris Christie was still the big conversation of the night. He stood there behind Trump at this press conference that he held at like 9 o'clock at night. Had a pretty good conversation up there with the reporters. But Chris Christie was back there for like half an hour. It had one person on social media likened his performance back there to Peyton Manning watching Eli after Eli had won the second Super Bowl. You know, and what are you doing? I should have been up there. At any rate. Also, Bernie Sanders picked up 4 states, Vermont, Oklahoma, Colorado, and Minnesota. But it doesn't matter. The fix has been in on that deal for a while, so this is pretty well over. Hillary Clinton can pivot now. She can turn to the general election pretty safely at this point. Although I would say that Massachusetts, still an interesting little case study. 20,000 Democrats. 20,000 Democrats switched sides and became Republicans to vote in Massachusetts, where Donald Trump wins easily. Again, Alabama, Arkansas, Georgia, Massachusetts, Tennessee, Virginia, and Vermont. So he's won all over the country. He's won all over the country, and big night for Cruz too. It keeps him in the game. Yeah, keeps him in the game for sure. So that keeps everything rolling along. Now, for the predictors, for the prognosticators, for the pundits, they said it loud and they said it clear. They said it over and over. They laughed about it and they told their friends what a joke it was. They wrote about it, talked about it, and told everyone on TV about it too. So confident were they didn't care who they told, so they pretty much told everybody. They said Donald Trump could not win. They were very, very wrong. On Super Tuesday, Donald Trump won all over the place, and his wins put him on track to win the Republican nomination to ascend to that role during the Republican convention in mid-July in Cleveland. I wonder what those pundits of politics are saying now. I mean, Nate Silver of the 538 blog was considered almost perfect for his calls on previous races, looked to as the gold standard. He told his readers as late as November to relax because there was no way Trump's numbers could hold. And just last month, he put the billionaire's chances of winning at just 50%. I'm guessing that's been knocked out of his head by the pounding Trump delivered nationwide. Trump won, like I said, in 7 states, and most impressive was that win in Massachusetts. That's a long way from where Dave Remick, the editor of The New Yorker, said that Donald Trump would be at this point, which he said was exactly nowhere. He said Trump was only selling his own brand and would be out of the race before snow fell in Iowa or New Hampshire. Well, if you didn't notice, it's been snowing for months now, just overnight quite a bit here as well. And those sentiments are lost in a blizzard of primary victories all over the nation. Those comments were mild, however, to the Atlantic's national correspondent that buried Trump in his own blizzard of ridicule. He said Trump wouldn't be the 45th president or the 46th or president ever for that matter. He said Trump's chance of winning the nomination or the presidency was exactly 0. Now they're all pulling up their chairs to a fine, hot, heaping helping of humble pie. Maybe those idiots should spend 30 days in the hole to get their heads straight. I doubt, however, they've learned anything from their massive pile of miscalculations. In fact, I've heard many already shifting their predictions to, well, he sure can't beat Hillary. Yeah, well, we should trust you now. Why? Skip that BS. Nobody's buying your standard one-size-fits-all approach to elections anymore. Nobody's buying your smarter-than-you attitude. And it's funny that the loudmouth New Yorker is the one guy who's been able to beat you at your own game. Maybe somebody could have taken a moment to notice that the majority of us that don't have a Manhattan address have also become really angry with what's going on in Washington. Americans are angry about reckless spending and a $19 trillion debt. Americans are angry at the flood of illegal aliens pouring into the country. Americans are angry that the economy continues to slog along with barely a flicker of life. Americans are angry that politicians refuse to call Islamic terrorism for what it is. Americans are sick and tired of getting jerked around by two-bit regimes like Iran and Syria, and really tired of losing to countries like China and Mexico on lousy trade deals when we lose jobs. If you haven't noticed, those are the same things that Donald Trump has been talking about ever since he joined the conversation last June. Make no mistake, the Trump reality is sinking in, and it has been for a couple of weeks now. How else would you explain the naked aggression of Mitt Romney and other establishment Republicans? The newly manufactured controversy about Trump and some make-believe story about David Duke and the Ku Klux Klan is a disgusting display of what happens when wildly wealthy power brokers realize a guy they cannot dictate to is upsetting their plans. Outspoken critics from the Republican Party say they are searching for an alternative because they are scared of losing in the general election. Now, that seems a bit odd to me. Does it seem odd to you, too? They're scared of losing in the general election. I mean, I don't remember the GOP, the Republicans all scrambling around with their emergency response teams when everyone knew John McCain had no chance at all of winning. They knew darn well if John McCain was nominated, he had no chance at all. They didn't worry when Bob Dole was clearly going to get crushed. But now they say they must run to stop this because Trump is sure to lose. Really? Maybe. But it seems to me the establishment is a hell of a lot more worried about him winning than losing. And maybe that's their big concern. Maybe the big payday between big business, big banks, and big government will come to an end potentially if Trump gets his hands on it. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. But they sure seem awfully scared about a guy that he might lose. Think about that for a second. All right, well, a lot more to talk about going straight forward. What are your thoughts? How did your guy do last night, or your gal? 888-900-9966, 888-900-9966. What was Chris Christie thinking? What are your thoughts? Give me a call on the Common Sense Hotline, 888-900-9966. It's the Steve Gruber Show, the day after Super Tuesday. It's Wednesday, my friends.
Keeping you in touch with Michigan and the world.
You're pushing too hard at what you want it to be. You're pushing too hard about the things you say. You're pushing too hard every night and day. You're pushing too hard.
Make no mistake, just because the pundits got it wrong, don't think that the media is on board. The media is pretty well in full-on panic. You know, even though they thought Trump might win as many as 10 last night, they locked up 7 wins for Donald Trump, 285 delegates. 300 delegates would have been the crushing blow. So he holds on a bit. What does Tom think about all this? He is on the hotline in Grand Rapids to give us his 2 cents worth. Tom, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Steve. I want to commend you for bringing the conservative side of things to the folks.
Thank you.
Here's what I think. besides the corrupted Republicans, like the pillars of Jello, like Mitch McConnell and John Boehner, not standing up to this corruption. How about Hillary Clinton? Don't you think she's going to be really concerned if Mr. Trump gets this nomination? Because the big Donald says, hey, he's not going to let this email thing go. He figures she's committed a crime and deserves indictment. And if he gets if he wins the presidency and puts in a good attorney general, maybe we'll see some justice in our country.
So who is your first choice? And the second question is,
Hey, I've been voting third party since 2000. I got so sick and tired of this.
Well, but hold on. But if you do that, Tom,
process.
If you vote third party, you might as well cast your ballot for Hillary Clinton. You know that. It's a complete waste. At this point, the elections are so close. If you voted for third party, then you helped Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama beat Mitt Romney.
Steve.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of principle for me. It's a matter of principle. But I would like to see Trump win the presidency to provide a modicum of justice to these yahoos that think they run the whole world.
So does that mean you would vote
in our society?
Would you vote for Trump then? That's what I'm asking you. I mean, if you want to see him win, wouldn't you? You would think you say you want to see him win. Wouldn't you vote for a guy you want to see win? I'm confused, Tom.
No, because I think the Republican Party is corrupt as sin.
Well, they're all corrupt, Tom. I got to jump. I greatly appreciate the call. See,
there you go.
I don't get that. I don't understand that, Tom. But I got to run because it makes no sense. You might as well vote for Hillary Clinton directly if that's going to be your attitude about the Republicans. Joe on the line in Grand Rapids as well. They're all listening to WJRW over there. Joe, what's on your mind?
Yeah, I think the only thing that can keep the Republicans from not winning are all the geniuses who sit around talking about their values and all this and their standards and I could never vote for Trump and it's them kind of morons that cost us the last two presidential elections, and I'm kind of getting tired of can Ted Cruz give a political speech without it turning into a prayer meeting? I mean, seriously, trying to use religion to guilt people into voting for you. And look, I'm a Christian. I'm not anti-religious. I just don't like people trying to manipulate me. And
I had a friend of mine say this, Joe. I want you to share something here with you, and then I'll let you continue. But I had a friend of mine recently say, who's very, he's very steadfast in his Christian faith. And I said, well, what do you think about, Trump, Cruz? He said, listen, I'm not electing a pastor. I'm electing a president. All right. He goes, that means, and so I have my Christian values that I apply to it, but I'm not so hung up on that I don't realize that we're in a political season here. So I appreciate your point.
Yeah. You got to look at it like a CEO of a company. I don't even know what my boss's religious views are. I just want him to do his job and, keep customers coming in, keep accounts going. It's so idiotic to see these people talk about their, I can't because my standards and my values. Well, how do you think a Hillary presidency is going to be?
Well, that's what I wanted to say.
We'll never get the debt paid off.
No, you'll never address the debt.
We'll never get rid of. Sorry.
That'll all be here. You'll never address the debt. You'll never address the concerns over a porous border. You'll never address the fact that the economy's in bad shape and that, stealing from good, hardworking Americans to pump more money into the economy for shovel-ready jobs is a joke. And the fact of the matter is, what still bothers me about the previous caller is third party will mean a third term for Barack Obama, in effect, with Hillary Clinton. If you vote third party, you might as well say that I want a third term of Barack Obama, my estimation. And, Joe, I'll give you the last thought.
Yeah. Here. If we don't take care of this national debt, the economy is going to collapse. Guaranteed. It's happened before to big major powers. We're not special, and we got to have somebody who knows how to do business, who's not a politician. And like you said, I'm not electing a pastor. I'm electing a president.
That's right. Thank you, Joe, for checking in. You can do the same. You can jump on the Common Sense Free-for-All hotline. Who are you going to vote for? Because next up, my friends, is Michigan. Michigan is next on the hit parade here. We come up Tuesday. March the 8th, who are you going to support and why? Who are you going to support and why? Can you get behind Donald Trump, or are you one of these folks that's totally anti-Trump? You know, I've heard conservatives say, well, you know, I can't vote for Trump under any circumstances. Then I see Jeff Sessions, for example, an extremely conservative senator from the state of Alabama that you probably know well, saying, I'm a Trump guy. Then you've got a middle-of-the-road moderate Republican, if you will, some people call too liberal, Chris Christie, who says, I'm a Trump guy. You know, so jumping in there. So these things are happening. And then Trump's speech, press conference combo, whatever you want to call it, from last night, said he's going to bring this country together. He has expanded, he said, the Republican Party. They're going to unify. And when they unify, they're going to be unstoppable, he says, about the Republican Party. If he changes his tone, that may well be true. I mean, Donald Trump, make no mistake, is going to be a factor all the way through, no matter what you might be wishing. And cheap hit jobs by the media and Mitt Romney won't change that. You know, trying to tie him to some, 25-year-old white supremacist isn't enough to get it done. The panic is full on in the media. We'll have more coverage in just a moment right here. It's Wednesday on the Steve Gruber Show.
The Steve Gruber Show. American values with Midwestern common sense.
Mirror, mirror.
All right, welcome back to it. It is 33 after. It's Wednesday, and of course, tomorrow we will have a presidential debate for the Republicans in Detroit. And then a day or two later, the Democrats will be gathering in Flint for their debate, continuing to turn the Flint water situation into the narrative of Republicans hate children of color and they poison them intentionally to save $5. That's the narrative. It's complete and it's grotesque. It's grotesque what these folks will do in a political season. You know, the accusations. And what's worse, check this out. So I was in the office yesterday. And there's a guy here who's a full-on Bernie supporter, whatever. And, he's wouldn't consider him a bad guy, or I wouldn't even consider him a dumb guy, right? But here he is, full-on Bernie supporter. And I said, should I make some joke? Shouldn't you be off to the Bernie rally? Well, I should be, but that's better than being endorsed by the Ku Klux Klan. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Well, David Duke. I said, how old are you? So he was 5 years old when David Duke left politics in 1993, all right? I said, you don't even know who David Duke is. Yes, I do. We all know that David Duke ran for president. He won primaries for the Republicans. I said, are you out of your mind? He didn't win anything. He didn't win. In fact, I had to go show the guy because this is the way it operates. The mob rules, and never underestimate the stupidity of a large group of people. I had to go show him not only did David Duke not win a primary in some brief run for allegedly running for president, which is nothing more than a bid to get attention, he didn't win a single delegate anywhere at any time, period. And yet these Bernie Sanders supporters, well, he won primaries running. That's because Republicans are all Klansmen and we're all secretly out cutting, little, you're out there. You probably got your sheets in the car so you can put on your pointy hats. I'm like, are you that stupid? I mean, I hate to tear you down in front of all your colleagues here at the radio stations, but good Lord. Read. It's a little something we like to call reading, where you learn knowledge and you've learned about different things that are going on. Anyhow, I was a little angry. I had to get that off my chest. All right, our next guest here, Todd Wood, good friend of the program, journalist for the Washington Times, does the column threat assessment and so much more. Todd, welcome back to the program.
Thanks for having me on, Steve.
Yeah, so let me give you a threat assessment. Hillary Clinton. There it is. Hillary Clinton. What's your threat assessment of that woman?
I think she is as slimy as they come. She will do anything, say anything,
hold on.
be anything to get what she wants.
Don't hold back. Tell me what you really think.
Well, my father was working in Arkansas years ago when Bill Clinton was there, and then he went to a party where Bill was arrived, and first thing Bill didn't shake hands with anybody, didn't talk to anybody, went straight to the TV and popped in a tape of himself on TV that day to watch it in front of everybody. So they're narcissists. They're just power hungry freaks.
Do you think Bill has like a wall at home that's like just pictures of Bill that he just walks by and like kisses different photographs on his way by from time to time?
Something to that effect. An I love me wall, yeah.
Yeah. You know what's bizarre? A couple of things. First of all, this whole manufactured deal, and I don't know whether it must come from the Republican establishment. This whole manufactured Trump, is endorsed by the Ku Klux Klan and friends with David Duke or whatever this nonsense is, which is 100% manufactured. Nothing Trump did. A baited, gotcha question from a reporter that turns into this. And yet, you've got Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton have very close ties with Robert Byrd, an actual member of the Ku Klux Klan, the actual Grand Cyclops or whatever he was, exalted Cyclops of the Klan, who had 30 years of racially oppressive votes in Congress before he finally saw the light. And Bill Clinton stands at his funeral and says, well, he's just a Southern boy trying to pick up a few votes. Well, that makes it okay to run down. Hey, these guys are just lynching a few folks, but you know what? I need their votes, so I'm going to join this white supremacist group. And Hillary, the praise that she laid on Robert Byrd while he was, majority leader in the United States Senate before he died in 2010. And yet, they let all of that slide for some connection to a guy that hasn't been in the news in 25 years and is completely irrelevant. It's baffling to me.
Oh, it's diabolical. I'm waiting for the questions to Hillary. Does she disavow Black Lives Matter, who advocate killing cops?
Absolutely not. She won't disavow.
I haven't heard that one.
No, she's on board with that. So okay, you wrote a pretty good column here a week or so ago, outlining why Trump has done so well. He's talked about the economy. He's talked about the southern border. He's talked about national security and all of the things that people are concerned about here at home. So do you think that momentum holds?
I do. I think this is bigger than anybody else understands or gets. I went to a Trump rally a few days ago in Valdosta. My son goes to school down there, and I just was down seeing him, and he said, hey, let's go to the Trump rally. So there was 7,000 people inside the building, and there was 13,000 outside. The line went for miles. I'm not joking. It was just incredible to see the...
All right, let me ask you something else, because you saying that has something else occur to me, which is this. We've seen the video time and again, no matter how they tried to cover it up, but Hillary Clinton has been talking to half-empty, three-quarters empty rooms since last June. Bernie Sanders is filling the place. Now, we all know the fix is in for Hillary using these super delegates, and we know that that's a... So here's Bernie Sanders rolling. Donald Trump is getting bigger crowds, even now. The more outrageous, the bigger the crowds. And I don't know if it's outrageous. It's just he's tapping into that frustration, that anger. And in Massachusetts, you had 20,000 Democrats, cross the line to become Republicans because of Donald Trump. And that's a slam now, of course. Well, Trump, he brings all those Democrats. Yeah, didn't we have this thing called Reagan Democrats that changed the whole narrative in 1980? And that was a good thing, but it's a bad thing when Democrats vote for Trump. It's bizarre to me. But is the fix in is what I'm driving at. Is the fix in? I mean, a lot of folks still believe Mitt Romney won the election in 2012, and there were a lot of irregularities that have never been answered for. What do you think?
You mean as far as Hillary trying to take it from Trump?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Hillary winning from Trump.
Oh, they will try for sure. But you know what? There's an article people should read. I think it was Tavis Smiley who wrote I think it was in USA Today yesterday, where he said the blacks are going to get on the Trump train, I think is the title of the article. And I think that's true. If Trump can make the case, and I think he is, that you're going to be better, especially minorities who have been destroyed under Obama. You want a handout or you want a job? And I can make the economy grow, and I can protect your employment better than, your Democratic friends who just use you for votes. I think that's what's coming here. He's going to pull blacks, minorities, independents, and I think this is bigger than anybody understands.
So Tavis Smiley, because you and he have so much in common.
right. But I saw the article and it struck me, and I was like, wow. And he was not positive about it. He was saying, these blacks are, stabbing the brothers in the back and all this kind of stuff, and it's racist.
Yeah, that sounds like
they
him,
don't understand.
Yeah.
Well, they understand food on the table, and that's what it's about.
Well, that's racist, of course. Food on the table. Feeding your family.
Yeah. Right up there with hard work.
Yeah, exactly. That's racist. How dare you suggest hard work? Yeah, it's awful. At any rate, all right. So sit tight right there. Of course, the election, the biggest thing. Michigan's next this coming Tuesday. We'll be back with Todd Wood here to talk about some other things as far as modernizing American weaponry. We're talking about rail guns and lasers and nuclear weapons when we come back right here on the Steve Gruber Show.
Delivering Michigan common sense with a big dose of truth and honesty.
I was born in a crossfire hurricane, and I howled at the morning driving rain. But it's all
right, welcome back to it. Welcome back to it here on the Steve Gruber Show. All right, well, one of the things that has been talked about at great length in this presidential season so far is the American military and defense, what should be done, building up the military. And if you haven't seen like the railgun and so forth, throws a projectile at like 5,500 miles an hour. So it throws this destructive projectile, and it does the damage of a cruise missile and costs like pennies compared to a cruise missile. Then you've got these new laser weapons. Reading articles yesterday, they could be operational in like 5 or 6 years that are super powerful, coming from drones or airplanes or, yes, even satellites in space. It's pretty impressive. But is the United States running out of time to modernize nuclear forces? That's one of the things that Todd has written about recently. Todd Wood, welcome back, of course. And what do you make of all this military hardware?
Well, just like our infrastructure, our weapon systems are aging drastically, especially the nuclear triad. The B-52 is called the B-52 because the first one flew in 1952 or was designed in 1952. So it's an old plane. They're going to fly it into the 40s. It's going to be almost 100 years old. I mean, it's shocking. The kids flying it now, their grandfathers flew the same tail numbers. It's really crazy. The ICBMs
they work.
What's that?
They work.
Yeah, they do. I mean, it's not that it is impossible to do. The airframes, as long as you don't overstress them, the steel inside the planes, inside the airframe, what do you call it, the chassis or whatever. I'm an aeronautical engineer and I can't remember the words, but they can fly as long as you don't overstress them, as long as you continue to maintain them. But the ICBMs are rotting in their silos, and that's another problem. The Minuteman missile was designed for 10 years lifespan. It's 30, 40 years ago when they were first put in. So, no, they're old. The ballistic submarines are old. We have to spend money to upgrade them. It's not something we cannot do.
So, all right. So, what about these new weapons that I've been reading about? This railgun is an incredible piece of equipment, it seems to me. I think I'm about right at 5,500 miles. It's projected, sent off to war, if you will, by a magnetic pulse that rockets it out of there faster than a rocket. Pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, that is where we need to go. Obviously, it costs money, but the Chinese and the Russians are basically caught up with us in stealth and in a lot of other ways or areas, and we've lost our technological edge. And when we have situations like in the South China Sea, we used to train and fight and equip to fight 2 wars. I remember that clearly back in my military days. I mean, we can't even fight in one big war overseas now. So Europe is threatened. We have to maintain our technological edge, and hopefully the next president will do that, just like Reagan did after Jimmy Carter.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens. See, the problem is, what if we don't get there? What if we, here's the thing, and I wrote a column about this here recently, and you tell me what you think, because you made me think of something there, as you often do. But it took Jimmy Carter to give us Ronald Reagan, in my estimation. Mm-hmm. And now all these people are running around, well, how did we end up with Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump, and how did this happen? Well, if Jimmy Carter gave us Ronald Reagan, it's fair to say that Barack Obama gave us a complete rebellion against the system that brought us Bernie Sanders, that brought us Donald Trump, because so many people are angry and feel this presidency has been so weak, misguided, and done damage, that this is the result. You got this, so you get this. I think he created both of these people and the phenomenon. What do you think?
Yeah. Well, he doesn't like that. Obviously, he said no. It was the Republican Congress. He said that the other day, which is a joke.
Nonsense.
The Republican Congress has only been there for 2 years at the longest. So, the thing about Reagan, though, they said the same stuff about him. I mean, they said he was racist. And Ronald Reagan.
I remember that. Ronald Reagan.
They threw the same crap at him.
Yeah, Ronald Reagan. Yeah. What do you have on your website? What's it say? In a time of universal deceit, telling the truth is a revolutionary act.
Yep.
That's from George Orwell, of course. But Donald Trump is telling some truth. And to be honest with you, there's a couple of things that Bernie Sanders is right about. I mean, these banks are so huge, they just steamroll people and make profits, and there's no competition. There's no the American, the competition isn't there in many ways. Would you agree with that?
Well, I think the fundamental problem with that is you have to let bad organizations fail, whether it be car makers, whether it be banks, whether it be whatever. I mean, creative destruction is the engine of this economy and what makes America great. And we're allowing decrepit organizations to be bailed out. I think it's completely wrong. I was glad when Lehman failed. I spent a long time on Wall Street. I saw some bad stuff happen, and that bad stuff should be rewarded with failure and the loss of money and loss of your job and loss of your pension. And if you make those kind of decisions, Lehman was funding their organization with 40, 50 times leverage with overnight funding, which means if the funding went up just a little bit, I mean, the game was over. They couldn't roll it at what they were doing. If it went up significantly overnight, they were done. Anybody should have failed in that environment.
Right, but they didn't. We too big to fail. Or whatever. As far as the banks in general did not fail, and there you go. And what a disaster. All right. So what do you see? Give me your predictions before we run today, Todd, about the outcome. Is it going to be Trump and Hillary? Is that your final thought? Do you think that's what
I do? And I think Trump is going to surprise a lot of people and bring a lot of Democrats, especially the black vote. I think he can get 20-25% of the black vote, and if he does that, the election's over. Yeah,
and he brought 20,000 Democrats across the street in Massachusetts for his win at the primary there last night. L. Todd Wood, always a pleasure. You can check it out. Go to ltoddwood.com. You can find out about his books, Currency, Sugar, Delta, Motherland, and so much more. Todd, always a pleasure.
Thanks so much, Steve. Take care. Have a good day.
There you have it. This hour of the Steve Gruber Show brought to you by the Michigan 529 programs, making sure that your kids and grandkids get the education they need. To learn more, go to savewithmi529.com, savewithmi529.com.
This is Common Sense Radio. Straightforward and no excuses.
All right. Come on now.
This is the Steve Gruber Show.
Call me crazy.
Oh, yeah.
What I said was perfectly right and spot on accurate.
Boy's got a mouth like a cannon, always shooting it all.
Stop.
Got it.
Yeah, stop. I mean, you're way off script.
Got it in me. Gonna quit until it all comes out.
Hey, boy!
Education.
Yeah, it's not cynical. It's common sense.
Pay attention to me when I'm talking to you.
I'm gonna rock the nation. Rock the nation.
Genuine, accountable, and raw. Here is Steve Gruber.
And welcome back to it. It is Wednesday. If you're just joining me, big night for Donald Trump, but enough hope to hang on to for Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio. Donald Trump won 7 primaries: Arkansas, Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, Massachusetts, and Vermont. Yeah, the liberal states of Massachusetts and Vermont and Virginia. Ted Cruz won in Texas. He also picked up Oklahoma right next door and Alaska. And Marco Rubio surprised everybody with a win in the Minnesota caucuses that came in late. But Marco Rubio just enough to hang on the board there. But Donald Trump rolling. He picked up 285 delegates. Ted Cruz, 160. Rubio, half of that or a little bit less. The other two, Carson and Kasich, also rans. Now, I had a chance to look at this Tavis Smiley article running in USA Today, talking in the headline. The headline is, Black America could get on the Trump train. Well, of course they could, because they have economic concerns. Here's one line, though, that I read this during the break. It makes me chuckle. At best, it's a big assumption to think that both the black political establishment and everyday black voters share the same sentiment on Trump's anti-immigrant stance. Scary. But honestly, I'm not so sure. Scary. Really, Tavis, scary that, that everybody doesn't think the way you do. Gee, how dare those people get out of line? We've told them how they're supposed to think and how they're supposed to vote. I mean, what a bunch of freaking hypocrites, huh? Anyhow, the hotline is open, 888-900-9966, 888-900-9966. What are your thoughts? Who's your candidate? Who are you going to support in less than a week when Michigan voters go to the polls? Let's go to the hotline. Maria's on the line. Marie, welcome to it.
Thank you for taking my call. I have one concern, and this really bothers me. I think that Obama lost the last election because how can you have 148% of the voters vote for you when only 100% are registered?
No, there was.
If you remember, that happened in Florida. It happened all across the country. Nothing made sense mathematically. Nobody addressed the problem.
Yeah, there were some.
I think that election was rigged and stolen.
There were some irregularities that a lot of us have asked questions about. It was never looked into closely, obviously, because Obama retained the White House. Who are you going to support now, Marie?
Well, I'll tell you, I've already voted through absentee vote. I voted for Ted Cruz, and my reasons are that he knows the Constitution inside out and backward. He is a lawyer that if he wants to rescind, as he said he would do, all the executive orders that Obama has put in place, they aren't going to be able to double-talk him about the law. He knows the law inside out and backwards. And yes, I would vote for Donald Trump if he's the guy nominated.
So there you go. All right, Marie.
But my first choice is Ted Cruz.
Well, of course. Apparently, you've already voted for him. That would make him your first choice. Marie, thank you so much for checking in. You have a great day. She's sweet. I like her. She makes me chuckle. She's called here before. You can call as well. The hotline number, 888-900-9966, 888-900-9966. Well, the Donald Express wasted no time getting right back in front of the cameras last night after those 7 wins. And I went back and looked at the 2012 results. There were 12 states on Super Tuesday last time around. Mitt Romney got 8. Santorum got 3, and Gingrich picked up his home state of Georgia. So, for Donald Trump to get 7 seems to be right about on course for a Super Tuesday. It's a lot of momentum to the Donald now. Now, he stepped out in front of the crowd in Palm Beach, Florida, after winning all of those primaries. He says, we're going to bring the Republican Party together. Let's listen to part of Donald Trump's comments. Clip 1, go.
We have expanded the Republican Party. When you look at what's happened in South Carolina and you see the kind of numbers that we got in terms of extra people coming in, they came from the Democratic Party or the Democrat Party, and they're Democrats and they're longtime Democrats and they were never going to switch, and they all switched, and they were independents. And we've actually expanded the party. Look at the number of votes we had in that area, as an example. 4 years ago, they had 390,000 or so votes. We doubled it. We were almost 800,000. Whereas the Democrats went down. There's much less enthusiasm for the Democrats. So, I'm a unifier. I know people are going to find that a little bit hard to believe, but believe me, I am a unifier. Once we get all of this finished, I'm going to go after one person. That's Hillary Clinton, on the assumption she's allowed to run, which is a big assumption. I don't know that she's going to be allowed to run. And I think that's frankly going to be an easy race. You see the polls. I beat Hillary in many polls. I know one thing. I don't think Marco's going to be able to beat her. I don't think, in all fairness, I think Ted's going to have a very hard time. But Ted at least has a shot because at least he's won a little bit. So I just tell you this. We are going to be a much finer party, we're going to be a unified party. I mean, to be honest with you. And we are going to be a much bigger party. And you can see that happening. We're going to be a much bigger party. Our party is expanding. And all you have to do is take a look at the primary states where I've won and just look where we've gone from X number to a much larger number. That hasn't happened to the Republican Party in many, many decades. So I think we're going to be more inclusive. I think we're going to be more unified. And I think we're going to be a much bigger party. And I think we're going to win in November.
And there you have it. There you have it. Donald Trump saying he is the unifier. And yeah, a lot of people wouldn't believe that. A comment from one of our listeners, Antonio, says, help me to understand this. And I know Antonio's a little left of center. People who thought Trump was a lunatic and crazy last week and last month now all seem like they're going to vote for him if he's chosen as the party candidate, if he is the nominee. That's how these things work, though. I mean, let's be honest. Hillary Clinton was not exactly subtle in playing the race politics in 2008, things that Bill Clinton said, not exactly endearing to Barack Obama, but they feign as if they like each other. They don't. Let's be honest. Bill Clinton had to come in 2012 and give a boost to Barack Obama, and he did. All right? And he did. Now, Barack Obama is starting to give some hints that he's going to give a nod to Hillary Clinton because she needs his help to win. And see how it all triangulates there? But, people that don't like Donald Trump, you know what? They just, as the old saying goes, they hold their nose and they pull the lever to vote because they like Donald Trump better than Hillary or Bernie. And for Democratic supporters, they would never vote for Donald Trump or Marco Rubio or Ted Cruz, so they stay where they stay. Politics is a rough and tumble place. So to answer your question, Antonio, yes. They'll say he's crazy. They'll say he's this. They'll say, I mean, Chris Christie said he was not qualified, didn't have the temperament to be commander-in-chief. Of course, that was when Chris Christie was still in the race. Now that he's out, he turns around and endorses Donald Trump. Strange, maybe, but politics do make strange bedfellows. No question about that. All right, straight ahead. Here on the program, Sarah Torre will be here to talk about religious liberty, getting a lot of conversation lately. We'll talk about it here on The Steve Gruber Show.
Michigan, born and raised with Midwestern values and Michigan common sense.
No word yet from the Obama White House on what they intend to do about the vacancy left behind by the death of Antonin Scalia. It's been a couple of weeks now, a little more since Scalia died suddenly while on a hunting trip in Texas, throwing the court basically into a 4-4 deadlock, ideologically speaking. So what happens next? I mean, there are big cases coming before the court. In fact, the first major abortion case in nearly a decade coming up in front of the Supreme Court. It's a battle between Whole Women's Health and Hellerstedt. It's a Texas case. Texas passing what they say were laws to ensure that women are not subjected to substandard conditions and practices at abortion clinics that could jeopardize their health, even lives. Critics say it was just a naked move to reduce abortions and take on those that support abortion. Our next guest, Sarah Torre, focused on family issues related to religious liberty, marriage, and family as policy analyst for the DeVos Center for Religion and Civil Society at the Heritage Foundation. Sarah, welcome to the program.
Thanks so much for having me on.
You must have a giant business card. Yeah, see, I kid. Just what about this case now? It's 4-4. Scalia not being there could make a big difference if you assume Kennedy would join the conservatives in the conversation. If not, it'll make little difference. What do you make of this case?
I think this is a pretty straightforward case. Texas has put forth health and safety standards that would raise those standards in abortion clinics. This came on the heels of Philadelphia abortion doctor Kermit Gosnell's murder trial, which really brought to light very dangerous and unsanitary conditions at his clinic in 2011. Following that, a number of states, including Texas, said, we're not having Kermit Gosnell here. We have to elevate the health and safety standards on these clinics, ensure that these doctors who are performing abortions have admitting privileges at local hospitals should, God forbid, something go wrong and a woman need emergency care. These are really common sense and reasonable standards. And yet the abortion industry, which claims to, be protecting women's health and advocating for women's health, is fighting this every step of the way. I hope that the court will recognize the truth that these are perfectly constitutional standards and uphold this law.
All right, so Gosnell was a doctor in Philadelphia, and he went to a murder trial for having dangerous and unsanitary conditions there in Philly. But here's okay, I'm going to play devil's advocate for a moment. No pun intended, but the devil's advocate here. What if you can't get admitting privileges in a local hospital? Then you're just out of business?
So that you can't perform abortions over 50 per year. These regulations apply to really abortion clinics whose main purpose is, or main business is to perform abortions. So, but advocates will suggest that this is going to, decrease access. They have these apocalyptic fears that women won't be able to get abortions, but that's not true. In reality, women will still be able to get access even if the Texas law is upheld. For instance, if the Supreme Court affirms the lower court's decision in this case, over 90% of women of reproductive age will still live within 2 to 3 hours of an abortion clinic. That's the same as it is right now today.
Well, and that's what I was going to get at, though. Is what about those women that live in the 10 to 15% of women that live a long way from a hospital? They're in rural Texas, is a big place, as you well know. They're in rural Texas. The only doctor around that performs abortions more than 50 a year. Can't get on staff of the local hospital. Then what?
That's the case right now today as this law is being litigated. Texas is a big place, and so there are women, there are families who can't get to a hospital, period, without traveling a number of miles. Again, Texas is a big place. So right now today, 90% of women will still live within 2 to 3 hours of an abortion clinic. If the Supreme Court upholds this law, the same will stand true. And every major metropolitan area in Texas that has at least one abortion facility today will still have one. And there are over 400 of these ambulatory surgical centers, these outpatient facility centers, outpatient surgery centers, that could start providing abortions. There are 9 of them that already provide abortions today. More of them could begin doing this and fill in the market. But the abortion clinics can't say that they're going to put their bottom line ahead of women's health and safety, which is really what they're arguing. This costs too much to meet these health and safety standards. We can't find enough staff to actually do this, so we're just going to close. Well, you can't be exempt from health and safety standards. The supposed right to abortion that the Supreme Court created in 1973 is not a right for abortion clinics to be exempt from these regulations.
We're on the line with Sarah Torre from the Heritage Foundation. All right, how big a difference is it going to make, do you think, with Antonin Scalia not on the bench? I mean, let's be honest. You don't really expect Kagan or Ginsburg or those people to go along with your side of the case.
This was always going to be a close case, as with many major cases at the Supreme Court. If it is 4-4, a tie, then with this case or any other case, the lower court's decision stands, which means the Texas law would be upheld. There's also a possibility that the Chief Justice could, in that situation, decide to carry over the case to the next term when they would ostensibly have another justice.
All right, so it's going to be a tightly contested race. And how was it ruled at the lower court? Did you tell me that? At the lower court, how did this rule?
Right. The lower court upheld Texas's regulations.
Right. So therefore, if it goes to a 4-4 tie, that's what stands until it would. I mean, how long would that stand, or they have to refile? I don't know how that all works at the court.
So that would stand for this particular case. Obviously, if the Chief Justice wants to hold the case over to be reheard next term, the case would basically be relitigated again. Otherwise, it's upheld, but it's not precedent-setting. So other cases from other states will probably come up.
So at some point, some more will come through, unless there's a 5-3 ruling in there somewhere, because it'd be almost impossible for a new justice to get seated, even if they even have the opportunity to get in before these oral arguments are heard. It just creates a mess on the court when somebody passes away like that. Sarah, I greatly appreciate your time and bringing some light to this conversation.
Thanks so much for having me on.
There you have it. Sarah Torre, who focuses on policy issues related to religious liberty, marriage, family, policy, so on and so forth, at the DeVos Center for Religion and Civil Society at the Heritage Foundation. Her business card, by the way, is a 3x5 laminated. Back in a moment on the Steve Gruber
Show. Keeping you in touch with Michigan and the world.
One evening as the sun went down and the jungle fire was burning, down the track came a hobo hiking, and he said, "Boys, I'm not turning. I'm headed for a land that's far
All right,
away,
welcome back to it.
beside the crystal fountains. So come with me."
Where do we go from here now that Super Tuesday is behind us? Donald Trump picks up 7 states. Ted Cruz gets 3, and Marco Rubio surprised many when he picked up Minnesota. So Flicker of life in Rubio's camp. Cruz, he'll be around for a bit. Donald Trump, though, picked up something in the order of 285 delegates. His momentum strong today. Herb London, the president of the London Center for Policy Research, joining us. And after all of these wins, where does that leave us? Herb London, welcome back to the program.
Well, pleasure to be with you. Thank you very much.
Give me an idea here, if you would. What do you think? What's your assessment of yesterday's primaries?
Well, from the point of view of Donald Trump, things could not have been better. Let me explain why. And not only the obvious win in 7 states and, of course, generating something on the order of 270 delegates, it was considered an enormous victory if he would get 250, which was roughly half of the delegates. Well, he has exceeded that number, may even be closer to 290 delegates. What is interesting about it, however, is that there was sufficient success by Cruz and Rubio so that they remain in the race. And Kasich is going to stay in until Ohio. The consequence of that is that you're going to have 4 candidates split the vote, which is a distinct advantage for Trump. As long as Rubio and Cruz and Kasich remain in the race, they're going to split the vote. As a consequence, even if Trump wins a plurality, it's a sufficient plurality for him to win in many of the states that are coming up. I think he will do well in Florida, which of course would be another setback for Rubio. But even if he doesn't do well in Florida, the fact is that this is a juggernaut in large part because he's getting something in the order of 40% of the Republican vote, sufficient when you have a 4-candidate race. I'm not considering Carson a serious candidate at this point.
No, I understand that. So I look at some of the things that Trump was out talking about last night in Palm Beach, Florida. He took a press conference at 9 o'clock at night. Interesting. He pointed out there's an enthusiasm gap. He said that the Democratic numbers are down, and they are 25% in some primaries, 40% in others, while Republican numbers are setting all-time records. However, looking at the numbers and comparing to Super Tuesday, say 4 years ago, Donald Trump is yet to break 50%, I think, in any of these contests. And in some of those contests, Mitt Romney was polling 60 and 70%, even though Gingrich was viable and Santorum was viable 4 years ago. Why is Trump not being able to break that 50% threshold?
Well, one of the things that has to be understood about the Donald Trump phenomenon is he has brought people into the party. He has generated a level of enthusiasm. But there are as many negatives associated with the Donald Trump campaign as positives. So if you talk to half of the Republican Party, they're going to say under no circumstances would we entertain the idea of a Donald Trump presidency. And so that's part of his problem. How does he bring the party together? This is going to be a very, very difficult juggling act. Assuming Trump wins, gets the nomination of the party, he is not going to be an enthusiastic candidate in the precincts of many Republicans. There are people like Ben Sass, for example, who have already said under no circumstances could he support Donald Trump.
And you know what people say? Hold on.
The National Review crowd, they've made it clear they could not support Donald Trump. And if you're looking at the Weekly Standard crowd, they've made it clear they're not going to be supporting Donald Trump. So it's a very difficult position that he is in uniting the party.
Yeah, and 20,000 Democrats crossed the aisle in Massachusetts to vote for Donald Trump to become Republicans. You know, so here's the thing. National Review, you know, maybe Donald Trump's right about that. Maybe it is a dying rag. Maybe he's right. And I'm not a Trump guy. I'm just saying, you know, maybe he's right about that. And you say Ben Sass, you know what 99% of America says? Who?
Right, exactly.
Ben who?
No, I'm not suggesting that these are powerful voices within the Republican Party. I'm merely saying that there is an opposition within the Republican Party that will be building. And there are many who are very much opposed to the idea of a Trump being the candidate of the party. They see him as bombastic, as empty-headed, as vulgar, and as someone who doesn't represent the interests of Republicans. And moreover, there are many conservatives who are not sure he's even a conservative, or he's changing the character of the conservative position. So, again, there's not wild enthusiasm on the part of many Republicans. I shouldn't say all Republicans, because there are some who are very enthusiastic about Donald Trump. But it's certainly not universal.
No, it's certainly not universal, you know, but a lot of the criticisms about not being conservative enough and, you know, being too modest or moderate or liberal on positions could be held against a lot of different Republican candidates over the years. And I think that what Trump has demonstrated thus far is that the pundits are wrong. You know, Nate Silver and 538 wrong. The New Yorker wrong. The Atlantic wrong. And I can write down the list. You know, you might put Ben Sass and National Review on that same list. And the fact of the matter is, I guess they'll have to ask themselves when they go to the polling place, Are they more opposed to Donald Trump being the candidate for the Republican Party, or Hillary Clinton giving Barack Obama, in effect, his third term, and maybe his fourth? What are they more opposed to? And that'll have to be the question when they walk into the polling place.
Well, I think you're absolutely right. I think that Republicans are going to have to face that prospect. What are they going to do when they walk into that voting booth? Is it a Trump and you hold your nose and you vote for Trump even if you're opposed to him? Or do you simply walk away and not vote at all? And if you're not voting at all, you're ostensibly giving your vote to the Democratic Party. So I think, Republicans are in a very awkward position. And you're absolutely right. There are many people in the party who are very enthusiastic about a Trump because he's brought people into the Republican fold who are not normally there. And that, I think, is a big plus for the party. Call them Reagan Democrats, call them disenchanted Republicans, call them disenchanted voters. I don't know who they are exactly, but the problem is that they are very significant today in the voting booths.
You brought something up there.
As long as they are, Trump has a distinct advantage. The problem, however, is that when you raise issues that are specific issues of a kind that we have to address as a nation, what you get are assertions without a plan or without any prospect of policy. And that is disturbing. The part that I find most upsetting about the Trump phenomenon is we're going to win. Really? We're going to win what? Under what circumstances? What are we winning? We've got a trade war that we're going to be engaged in because the Chinese are eating our lunch. Well, I thought he's a free trader. This is mercantilism. Aren't there?
Now, hold on, Herb. Hold on. America's the only country on the damn planet that allows us to take stuff in without a tariff of any sort. The Chinese and the Mexicans and the Brazilians and the Russians and the Europeans, everybody kills us because we are the only free traders. And we freely traded our jobs because of NAFTA and the TPP and everything else. Come on. We're the only country that does that.
You missed my point. This guy says that he is a free trader. That's fine. You could be a free trader. And you could be a mercantilist, and there's a justification for mercantilism if you just made the argument. But you can't be both.
Well,
so Trump is confused.
Well, maybe. He might be confused, but you know what? America's not confused. America's sick of what they've been seeing for a long time. And again, I'm not a Trump guy, but in all honesty, let's go back to the other thing you said. Reagan Democrats, you said. Today, in today's atmosphere of the Republican primaries, Reagan attracting Democrats would somehow be akin to not being conservative enough. Oh, my God, he attracted Democrats. We must eliminate him because he doesn't hold, it's not etched in stone that he's conservative enough. That's the kind of nonsense, Herb, that's hurting the party.
You're misunderstanding my view because I'm certainly not orthodox on this matter.
I understand.
And I think it's very desirable that he open up the Republican Party to people who do not normally vote for the Republican Party. And I can also tell you, I'm not one of these establishment types who believe that the person who has experience and has led the party for years should continue to do so. I've seen a party that gave in to Obama in every conceivable way in the last budget. So you don't have to convince me about the failures of the Republican Party and the arguments that Trump is making. I'm merely suggesting to you that he makes them in a manner that very often leaves me confused.
I don't disagree with that.
Sure about what he is trying to accomplish.
Fair enough. Herb London, president of the London Center for Policy Research. Always a great conversation, Herb. Look forward to talking to you again.
Look forward to it as well. Thank you so much.
Delivering Michigan common sense with a big dose of truth and honesty.
Welcome back to it, 45 after the hour. Well, after the turnout yesterday, record turnout for Republicans, by the way. Democratic turnout down by more than 40% in some states. There's no enthusiasm. There's none. Go back to, Hillary Clinton having half-empty, three-quarter empty rooms. Bernie Sanders is filling the arenas. Donald Trump filling arenas. Trash talk him all you want. He fills the place with Republicans, Democrats, young people, old people. Yes, people that are Black and Hispanic, believe it or not. I know as much to the shock of MSNBC and others, but yeah, it happens. Jennifer Burke with us now, co-founder of Politistick and the editor-in-chief there. Jennifer, welcome back to the program.
Thanks for having me on this morning.
So Marco came up with a win. Marco came up with a win in Minnesota last night. Ted Cruz with 3 wins, but Donald Trump got all the momentum. But you say there is still a plan afoot out there for Marco Rubio or someone else, anyone else, to become the nominee. What do you mean?
Yeah, there's been rumors about the Republican establishment planning for a brokered convention ever since the rise of Donald Trump I mean, even with names like Mitt Romney, because he did so well in 2012, being thrown around as a possibility of a person they're going to try to get in. But, you know, I think it's really just a pipe dream into that happening. I don't know if that's why Marco is staying in the race. I mean, he won Minnesota, but when you look at the delegate count, he edged out Ted Cruz as far as percentage points, but they both got the exact same number of delegates from Minnesota. So, you know, if they tried that, I remember in 2012 there were some things finagling tried by the establishment as far as, what was it, they increased the number of states you had to have 1 to 8 instead of 7, and it was in an attempt to shut down the Ron Paulers,
right.
I believe. So if they were to try something like that, I think they would have an angry grassroots once again.
Yeah, you know, I don't know what to make of it. The naked hit jobs by Mitt Romney and others. I mean, really? There's a bombshell in his tax return. How do you know, Mitt? Well, I don't, but I'm sure it must be there because I haven't seen his tax returns yet. Wow, really, Mitt? That's what you're going with? Or, hey, you know, he didn't refute the Ku Klux Klan. This is this whole thing about the Klan and David Duke is the most manufactured story. It is the most obvious political hit job accompanied by the media I've ever seen.
You know what, though? I have to disagree with you there, Steve, because when I saw Trump, I was watching that Jake Tapper interview, and he was asked not once, not twice, but 3 times. There was no problem with his earpiece. He repeated some of the information back that Jake Tapper said. I was baffled, and I've asked people who are Trump supporters, okay, and so if he disavowed them at a rally a few days before, why the hesitation on national television?
Yeah, that was odd. I'll give you that. But here's the thing:
he's not doing himself any favors.
He's not
with that, and I thought it was bad form.
It was bad form. I'll give you that. But the first time that question was thrown out of there, first of all, David Duke, who? I mean, the guy is completely irrelevant. So at that Friday thing, he goes, "I disavowed." Okay, that should have been the end of it. But of course, it wasn't because the media wanted to pile into this deal. Now the Jake Tapper thing, odd. I don't know what to make of that, but he's disavowed it at least 4 or 5 times. And the point being is, what is Mitt Romney doing? I mean, he's not out there by accident. Let's be honest. He didn't happen into this. He's out there. He's somebody's henchman. He's out there is the goon squad, really.
Right. I mean, definitely. There's no accident that Mitt Romney's out there. And I mean, my husband and I have talked frequently the last couple of months. Notice how much Mitt Romney's out there in the media. The man hasn't been in the media all that much over the last few years. And then now all of a sudden, over the last couple of months, you know, he has been. So, and that kind of fueled the rumors of the possibility of a brokered convention, which would just be ridiculous. One of the reasons Mitt Romney lost that election in 2012 is because he refused to go as hard against Barack Obama as he did against the conservatives. He went hard against, you know, Newt Gingrich, Rick Perry, anyone else he felt threatened by, I guess, in the race in the primary. But then when it came to Obama, he backed off. So, you know, what is Mitt Romney going to do if they were to succeed in getting him in? A whole lot more people would stay home once again. I think that whole notion is ridiculous.
I would agree with that. Jennifer Burke, co-founder of Politistic, editor-in-chief there. Yeah, I think if they pull some, you know, if it goes to the convention and there's not a clear winner, okay, that's one thing. But if it's jury-rigged or the fix is in, no, people are not going to respect that. They're just going to say that's crazy. I won't deal with that. But on the same token, on the Democratic side, you have a candidate that is so weak and so damaged and so disliked. You know, people might dislike Donald Trump, but, you know, I saw it last night on the podium. He starts talking about uniting the party, bringing in more people, having record turnout. All true, by the way. Maybe it's time to pivot, and all this nonsense about the Jake Tapper interview will be, you know, because you see black people at his rallies, they don't care about that. They say it's the race card that gets played every 4 years. Where do we go from here? Can he win or can he not?
Well, you know, the most recent CNN poll shows him not winning against Hillary Clinton. Shocking as that might be, I mean, I have my issues with Donald Trump because having been a teacher for 12 years, I look at his Twitter feed and I tell people I wouldn't accept that kind of behavior from a 5th grader, let alone a presidential candidate. I really wish he would knock that off. He did for a brief amount of time in the fall, then he ramped it back up. But the fact that Hillary Clinton is the presumed Democrat nominee shows you how devoid of morality this country has become, that anybody would stand behind that woman with a sign. But and as far as Donald Trump, if Donald Trump wants to unite the party, then I would suggest he stop the vile name-calling that he's done of some of his presidential opponents.
Yeah.
Because I don't understand how he thinks he will unite the party with some of the things he says about his opponents and the people who support them.
That's a fair
point. So
point.
if he really wants to do that, then that presidential behavior that he said that he can... You can be tough and tough-sounding without saying some of the things he's said, but if he wants to unite the party, then he really needs to rethink his strategy as far as, what he says at the podium and what he does on social media.
And Jennifer, make no mistake, I would be happy to stand behind Hillary Clinton with a sign. You make no mistake, Jennifer. Greatly appreciate your time. Jennifer Burke, co-founder, Politistic, the editor-in-chief of Politistic, here on the Steve Gruber Show. We'll be right back.
This is Common Sense Radio. Straightforward and no excuses.
All right. Come on now.
This is the Steve Gruber Show.
Call me crazy.
Oh, yeah.
What I said was perfectly right and spot on accurate.
Boy's got a mouth like a cannon, always shooting it all.
Stop. Yeah, stop. I mean, you're way off script.
Got it in me, gonna quit until it all comes out.
Hey, boy!
Yeah, it's not cynical. It's common sense.
Pay attention to me when I'm talking to you.
I'm gonna rock the nation. Rock the nation.
Genuine, accountable, and raw. Here is Steve Gruber.
It looks ever more likely this Wednesday that the showdown will be between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. Yeah, the big winners last night in the Super Tuesday primaries. Clinton getting a majority of the states, Trump getting a majority of the states, Trump picking up Arkansas, Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, Massachusetts, Vermont, and Virginia. Ted Cruz will hang in, though, after picking up Texas, Oklahoma, and Alaska. Marco Rubio clings to life with a win in Minnesota. Bernie Sanders picked up 4 states as well, including Minnesota, Oklahoma, Vermont, and Colorado. So he stays alive with those 4 states. But Hillary Clinton is rolling. Donald Trump is rolling. And the question now is, how's it all going to play out? The Republicans are, the establishment Republicans are in full-on panic mode. They can't believe that this happened. And, of course, the pundits can't either. They said it loud, they said it clear, they said it over and over. Many of them laughed. They told their friends it was a joke. They told you and I it was a joke. They wrote about it. They talked about it. They told everyone on TV about it, too. Everyone on the radio. They were so confident they didn't care who they told, so they pretty much told everybody. They said that Donald Trump could not win, would not ever win. It was impossible. But on Super Tuesday, Trump won all over the place. And his wins put him on track to win the Republican nomination to be president, to be coronated in mid-July in Cleveland, Ohio. And trust me, the establishment has done everything they can. From National Review doing front page stories to Mitt Romney doing cheap attacks. It doesn't stop. I wonder what those pundits of politics are saying now. Take a look at people like Nate Silver of the 538 blog. He was considered almost a deity in politics for his precision on calling, close races. He told his readers as late as November to relax because there was no way that Trump's numbers could hold. He put the billionaire's chance of winning at just 50%. I'm guessing that's been knocked out of his head by the pounding Trump delivered nationwide. And in Massachusetts, people should pay attention to that one. 20,000 Democrats, it is being reported, crossed the street to vote for Donald Trump. How about Trump Democrats? Will they propel him to the White House? It's a long way, I should say, from where Dave Remnick, the editor of The New Yorker, said Trump would be, and he said he'd be exactly nowhere. He said Trump was only selling his own brand and would be out of the race before snow fell in Iowa or New Hampshire. Well, that was weeks ago now, and it's been snowing for a long time. And those sentiments have been lost in a blizzard of primary victories all over this nation, from New Hampshire to Nevada, South Carolina to Georgia. to Massachusetts. Those comments were mild, however, compared to the Atlantic's national correspondent that buried Trump in his own blizzard of ridicule. He said Trump wouldn't be the 45th president or the 46th. He said Trump's chance of winning the nomination for the presidency was exactly 0. Now they're all pulling up their chairs to a fine helping of humble pie, and, well, they should spend 30 days in the hole for this kind of behavior. But I doubt they've learned anything from their massive pile of miscalculations. In fact, you've heard it. I've heard it. They're already saying, well, he can't beat Hillary in a head-to-head. Look at the polls. He can't win. Yeah, well, we'll find out. And by the way, why would any of us trust you now anyway, after all your, inaccuracies, miscalculations, missteps, nonsense, frankly? We're going to skip that BS because nobody's buying that standard one-size-fits-all approach to elections. Nobody's buying your smarter than the rest of us attitude. It's funny that the loudmouth New Yorker is the one guy who's been able to beat all of you at your own game. Think about that. Think about that. Maybe somebody could have taken a moment to notice that the majority of Americans, the ones that don't have an address in Manhattan, have become really disenchanted, frustrated, angry with what's going on in this country, specifically what's going on inside the Beltway in Washington, D.C. Americans are angry about reckless spending, $19 trillion in debt, and if this continues, in just 10 years' time, the third biggest item in the American budget will be paying interest, just the interest, on our national debt. Americans are angry about the flood of illegal aliens pouring into the country, regardless of what kind of names we're called, bigots and xenophobes. It doesn't matter. People want a secure border. Americans are angry that the economy is stagnant and stale and barely alive. We're not happy that politicians refuse to call Islamic terrorism Islamic terrorism. We're sick and tired of getting jerked around by two-bit regimes like what happened in Iran and that horrible deal there, or Syria, where we're made to look like fools. We're tired of pointless wars and reckless money being spent, and really tired of losing to countries like China and Mexico on lousy trade deals that cost you and I and our families jobs. And if you haven't noticed, by the way, that's the same laundry list that Donald Trump has been using and talking about since last June. So make no mistake. The Trump reality is sinking in, and it has been for a couple of weeks now, creating full-on panic for the establishment, both Democrats and Republicans. Don't let the Democrats fool you. But for the Republicans, how else could you explain Mitt Romney coming out and doing attack jobs on Donald Trump, or this created controversy over David Duke? You know, outspoken critics from the Republican Party say they're searching for an alternative. Well, you didn't give us one. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe people aren't fired up. They're not excited. But record numbers of Republicans are turning out while Democratic numbers plummet. And establishment Republicans are saying, well, we've got to come up with an alternative because, you know, Donald Trump will certainly lose in the fall. Will he certainly lose? Aren't you the same guy that said he would certainly never get the nomination? It occurred to me, and it continues to occur to me, the Republican establishment isn't worried that Donald Trump will lose in the fall. I think they're worried that he will win. Hillary Clinton's been in Washington forever. She's been there since 1992. If she hasn't figured out how to solve problems by now or fix the problems by now, she's been a senator and Secretary of State and First Lady. What is she going to do in the next 4 years that hasn't already been tried or could have been tried or could have been done? What would be different now for Mrs. Clinton? The country wants something different. The country wants a non-politician, somebody that's outside of the mainstream. That's why Bernie Sanders is doing so well. You think they really want to go to a career politician like Hillary Clinton? Maybe. But I don't think so. We'll see what happens. A long way to go in this nomination process still, but Donald Trump had a very big night, make no mistake. Wednesday on The Steve Gruber Show.
Covering covering Michigan and the world from his bunker below the bridge. Here is Steve Gruber.
All right, welcome to it. So, all right, let's. I want to hear something from. Donald Trump about this comment that he gave last night about pulling the Republicans together. It'll kind of sew things up for you for today. He went off to Florida, to Palm Beach, to one of his fancy resorts that he owns, and said, listen, look at what we're doing. We're bringing in record numbers of people, and we're going to unite this party. Listen to this. It sounds different. It's a different tone. Donald Trump, clip 1, go.
You look at what's happened in South Carolina and you see the kind of numbers that we got in terms of extra people coming in. They came from the Democratic Party or the Democrat Party, and they're Democrats and they're longtime Democrats, and they were never going to switch, and they all switched, and they were independents. And we've actually expanded the party. Look at the number of votes we had in that area, as an example. 4 years ago, they had 390,000 or so votes. We doubled it. We were almost 800,000. Whereas the Democrats went down. There's much less enthusiasm for the Democrats. So, I'm a unifier. I know people are going to find that a little bit hard to believe, but believe me, I am a unifier. Once we get all of this finished, I'm going to go after one person. That's Hillary Clinton, on the assumption she's allowed to run, which is a big assumption. I don't know that she's going to be allowed to run. And I think that's frankly going to be an easy race. You see the polls. I beat Hillary in many polls. I know one thing. I don't think Marco's going to be able to beat her. I don't think, in all fairness, I think Ted's going to have a very hard time. But Ted at least has a shot because at least he's won a little bit. So I just tell you this. We are going to be a much finer party, we're going to be a unified party. I mean, to be honest with you. And we are going to be a much bigger party, and you can see that happening. We're going to be a much bigger party. Our party is expanding, and all you have to do is take a look at the primary states where I've won, and just look where we've gone from X number to a much larger number. That hasn't happened to the Republican Party in many, many decades. So I think we're going to be more inclusive. I think we're going to be more unified, and I think we're going to be a much bigger party, and I think we're going to win in November.
And there you have it. The point that he's making is not lost. Numbers for Democrats turning out to the primaries and so forth down more than 40% in some states, anywhere from 25 to plus 40% down. Republican numbers setting all-time records all over the country. Join me now, Megan Barth, founder and proprietor of ReaganBaby.com. Megan, welcome back.
Well, good morning.
Good morning. You listen to Donald Trump there. He sounded, well, like he's going to try to pull people together. The question is, can he do it?
Well, for all intents and purposes, you look at the polls, he is doing it. He's gaining the military vote and the veterans vote. He's got the Hispanic vote very nicely tied up in South Carolina and Nevada. He's gaining ground with the African-American vote. He polls around 20%. Reagan only polled in 9%. This is the tent. This is the big tent that the GOP has been wanting for a very long time. Who, because they have acquiesced to moderates in their party, who continue to toss out moderates as candidates, and they continue to lose. Losers don't pick winners. And that's my latest post up on Reagan Baby. And I haven't written it all yet, but it's going to be written in a few hours. Watching this last night was definitely not a rout for Trump because he didn't take Texas, Oklahoma, but it certainly wasn't a rout for Marco Rubio, the establishment pick.
Yeah, he picked up Minnesota barely, and Cruz picks up Oklahoma, Texas, and Alaska. So a big win. I mean, Trump picks up 7, and I went back and looked at 2012, very similar to what Mitt Romney did 4 years ago because Santorum and Gingrich won on Super Tuesday, some primaries as well. So it would seem that Trump is on the inside track to win it all. And you talk about inclusive here, the piece from Tavis Smiley in USA Today, black voters getting on the Trump train. Tavis Smiley, you can hear his jaw hitting the floor, as he writes this piece. But, it looks like Hillary Clinton's not going to carry the black vote, certainly not the way Barack Obama did, and that could be a big difference maker.
That's right. If she doesn't sweep the black vote, if she doesn't get, the 85, 95% of the black vote, if if Donald Trump, like he said last night, gets upwards towards 20% or beyond, game over. Hillary Clinton is not necessarily electable. She has an FBI investigation hanging over her head. We're really unsure of what Loretta Lynch is going to do. She's not winning the millennial vote. She's only polling well with African Americans and voters over 65.
Let me ask you this. Do you think that because I don't know, honestly, Bernie's supporters right now, the ones that are turning out in giant numbers to his rallies and so forth, and propelling him to, well, he's won five or six primaries or whatever, are they going to turn out at all for her?
Well, I was saying that last week on the radio. I don't see them showing up for her at all because she represents everything they despise. She represents Wall Street. She represents insider politics, status quo, big banks. The list goes on and on. There has been, I noticed on Drudge right before I took a snooze last night, before I started this morning, that Bernie supporters are vowing to go to Trump.
Yeah, and isn't that bizarre? So, all right. Next stop, Michigan on Tuesday. The last polling I saw here, Trump was winning here. And then, of course, you've got the Ides of March primaries, a whole pile of them on March the 15th. If Trump comes out of there with 3/4 of the wins again, I mean, he's already on the way. He picked up something on the order of 285, 290 delegates last night, Megan. He's well on his way. I'll give you 20 seconds here for the last word.
He is well on his way to get the nomination, and the GOP would be stupid to broker a convention. If people wanted Rubio would be winning. If people wanted Cruz would be winning. The GOP didn't want Cruz, and I'm tired of the GOP claiming that they're a conservative party. If the GOP was a conservative party, they would have given us conservative candidates for decades.
Well, there is that point. Megan Barth, ReaganBaby.com, the place to find out that brand new post. Losers don't give us winners. Megan, always a pleasure.
Thanks, Steve.
Talk soon. All right, there it is, everybody. 25 after on a Wednesday. It's the Steve Gruber Show.
Getting your day started with news from around the state and around the world. Common Sense Radio. This is the Steve Gruber Show.
All right, the path to the nomination becomes much clearer for both sides. With Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton winning the majority of the primaries yesterday. Trump picked up 7. Hillary got about the same, maybe exactly the same. And Ted Cruz picked up 3. Marco Rubio picked up a consolation prize in Minnesota. But that leaves our next guest, Edward Woodson, host of the nationally syndicated Edward Woodson program, officially endorsing Donald Trump. He says only Trump can win in November. Only Trump can make America great again. Edward, welcome to the program.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So you're on the Trump train.
Yeah, you know what? I got to tell you, I've been on the Trump train since he made the announcement. I knew that he would resonate with Americans. It's time that we had someone who was successful, who's actually accomplished something, who's actually done something, instead of the politicians that we've had, instead of the donor class and the professional politicians that we've had in Washington for, forever, pretty much.
All right, so let me go through some of the criticisms of him and see how you would address those when talking about Donald Trump. He's not conservative enough.
Well, let me ask you this. Is Jeff Sessions conservative enough?
Well, he is, and I know that Jeff Sessions made that endorsement, but on Donald Trump's policies, is he conservative enough?
Well, here's the thing. I don't think that this is an ideological election, frankly. I think that, people really don't care if he's conservative enough. I think that's that argument, that criticism, it doesn't matter with voters whether he's conservative enough. People don't care if he's conservative. People don't care about ideology. People just want somebody that's going to change Washington, that's going to come in and take care and fix problems. They want someone who is going to basically destroy the GOP.
Will he protect?
To happen, frankly.
Well, you say he doesn't care about ideology and so forth. Many people do. We care about this trite little document.
I think think that the voters don't care about ideology. I'm not saying he doesn't. I think that the voters don't care about ideology. I don't think this is an ideological election. I think that look, evangelicals overwhelmingly support Donald Trump. You have all age groups now. You've got people that identify themselves as conservative that support Donald Trump. You've got college-educated people. You've got people that have high school diplomas. You've got large swaths of individuals all over the country from all age groups and all socioeconomic classes that support Donald Trump. Is what I'm saying.
Well, I think that a lot of people care about the Constitution and believe that Barack Obama stomped on the Constitution. Many believe that Donald Trump won't worry too much about the Constitution either. What do you say to that?
Well, I mean, there is a Constitution, so regardless of what he thinks, I don't think he's ever exhibited that he was that he didn't care about the Constitution. I don't think he's ever made statements in that regard. I don't think he's ever said that he's not going to follow the Constitution. In fact, he said the opposite.
Well, I understand what he said. He's trying to get elected. That's what politicians do. Barack Obama said he would uphold and protect the Constitution as well. Many of us might think that's not what has happened thus far. So
I agree with that.
And what about the crass language? What about the nonsense about water and big ears and little ears and all this nonsense and all this garbage? This is not presidential to many.
Well, I agree. So then why is Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz behaving the way they're behaving?
Well, I understand all that, but we're not here to talk about them. We're here to figure out what Donald Trump has that can propel him to the White House.
Well, look, the fact is that he's obviously resonating with voters. He's obviously winning elections. That's a broader question. I think this comes from the years of the GOP ignoring the base, the years of the GOP vilifying their base of voters. It comes from years of the establishment, the Bushes, the Doles, the McCains, the Romneys, Paul Ryan selling us out with that Cromnibus bill, the lack of defunding Obamacare. I mean, we could go on and on about the GOP. This has been a long time coming, and I think voters are fed up with it. Look, in 2010 and 2014, you had majorities in terms of Republicans that were elected, and what happened? Nothing.
So what's it going to take for Donald Trump and we're on with Edward Woodson, syndicated talk show host Edward Woodson. Only Trump can win in November. You're saying only America can make America great again. How does he beat Hillary Clinton? All the polls show that Hillary Clinton is the favorite to win the election right now. What changes that conversation?
Well, I think that's a false narrative. I mean, I think that he's going to destroy Hillary Clinton in a general election. Hillary Clinton is a horrible candidate. I mean, just listen to her voice. She's not Bill Clinton. I mean, they haven't even started. Look, remember a couple weeks ago when they brought out Bill Clinton to help campaign? He basically tore into Bill Clinton, compared him to Bill Cosby, and that was the end of that. He hasn't even started on Hillary Clinton. He's going to talk about the emails. He's going to talk about Benghazi. I think Hillary Clinton is a very flawed candidate, and I'm anticipating that we're going to have a Reagan-esque landslide in November.
So you think that? So what's your prediction then? You think that if Donald Trump gets the nomination, which he has the inside track for right now, was he going to win 30 states, 35? What are you saying?
45 states.
Come on.
Yeah.
45 states.
Correct. You heard it here first, and remember when it happens. Because I want you to have me back on the show.
Nah, well, we don't mind doing that, but so he'd have to carry places like Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Maine.
Well, look at what happened last night. Look what happened last night. In fact, there's a report out that there were 20,000 Democrats that switched over specifically to vote last night for Donald Trump. Look, you've got rank-and-file members of the unions that are going to vote for him. You've got people that are coming out of the cabins in Appalachia that haven't voted ever, that are voting for Donald Trump. You've got the Reagan Democrats that haven't voted that are coming out. And see, this is what the media isn't telling us, is that you're going to have a lot of people like Democrats, like independents, that are going to vote for Donald Trump. You know, for years the GOP told us we needed a Big Ten candidate. And now we have the Big Ten candidate, but they don't like it because they can't control him, because the donor class cannot control Donald Trump.
Because they can't foot the bill. I get that. Edward Woodson, greatly appreciate the time. You can find out more at edwardwoodson.com. Appreciate the comments. All right, 45 states. I'm writing it down. It's on my calendar. We'll take a look at that the first week in November.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, Edward, thank you so much. It's Wednesday here on the program. 45 states. I think he might be... he could be wrong. I'm just throwing that out there. Still ahead today, we're going to talk a little bit about something different for a bit here, and that's the federal judge siding with Apple in a case here that could set up a win for Apple in its pushback against the federal government demanding access to iPhones. We'll talk about that when the Steve Gruber Show continues.
Genuine Michigan common sense on display every day.
All right, welcome back to it. I'll take a different tact for a moment here. Take a close look at what's going on with Apple, because this really does affect all of us. The government pushing, of course, to have access to, basically telling Apple they need to rewrite their operating system so they can have access to their encrypted phones, like the one used in San Bernardino by the terrorists when they slaughtered 14 people at a Christmas party. David Inserra here, a cybersecurity expert. David, welcome to the program.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Now, you seem to believe, like I do, there's a variety of reasons that Apple should not give a master key to the government. What are those reasons for you?
Yeah, so I think that there are strong rationales honestly on both sides, but I just think that on the whole, Apple's arguments are just a bit stronger and are just a bit more compelling. And what those really boil down to is that if you force us to break down, create a tool, create the software that breaks down the protections on our iPhone, this is going to be something that many, many other countries, including some that we are not friendly with, are going to ask for and going to use for more nefarious purposes. B, this could actually be a very serious security risk for just everyday Americans, because we all rely on our cell phones and have a lot of important information on our cell phones. And if this master key, as you talked about, this piece of software somehow falls into the wrong hands, any number of millions of devices become vulnerable because that skeleton key is effectively out there. And so, that's one of the, those are some of the major reasons. And on top of that, the fact that some bad guys, they're gonna start using third-party applications. We can't stop them from downloading an app that also encrypts their communications. And then the FBI is still, up a creek without a paddle. The only difference is our communications are less secure.
So what? I mean, we all understand that terrorism, needs to be snuffed out wherever possible. I think we all agree on that. My concern is pretty simple. Giving the government, and therefore somebody, unelected bureaucrats, people behind the curtain, if you will, access to go, freely run about in our information. I think there's too much of that going on already, frankly. And it's the one place that I agreed with Rand Paul on anything, that for sure. But I think that, people, other countries, other people want information on you, government agencies, we have to say no, if at all possible.
Yeah, so this is a case where, I actually think that, the due process, in this case, the government isn't able to just access this information whenever they want. They need a warrant So I'm actually not so worried about the government snooping sort of part of this, because this is in the course of a normal investigation. They have to go to the judge, get the warrant, just like in any other case that they want to, enter your home to serve the search warrant. So they're relying on that same sort of due process protection there. The problem here, like I said, in my view, is more a security problem. If we try to give information to the FBI or law enforcement to stop or investigate terrorism, which is clearly very, very important, but if we give them that, we are putting in vulnerabilities into our data security, into our device security. And so we have to weigh which of those things is more important, which of those things, is it possible to do both? And the problem is it doesn't appear like it is. And so we have to make a choice, which unfortunately right now, is really a hard choice.
It is a hard choice, because here's the thing. Nobody wants to have the blood on their hands of saying, no, we don't want to give you access to this. And maybe that cell phone from San Bernardino is an easy example, connects to other terrorists or other cells or something else that we could have stopped. But nobody wants to blow on their hands for that. But on the same token, again, people don't need to be sniffing through my, inbox and my, sent mail to see what I'm talking about and try to connect the dots and turn, normal Americans into criminals. They don't need to be lurking. I think that's the word, lurking about in the shadows. We don't need that, my estimation.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. And I would say that with this program, even if you were to give law enforcement this special access, I still don't believe that you'd have that sort of lurking. And the reason I said is because it requires a warrant. It requires the same process that the law enforcement needs to go through to get, like I said, a search warrant to search your house. And so if they have enough probable cause to enter your house to search for evidence, then that's the same burden of proof that they need to get to go into your phone in this case. So I completely agree that we need due process. We need to protect the rights that we have, and we have a right to be safe in our persons and our possessions in terms of unreasonable search and seizure. That's right there from the Bill of Rights. But I do think that in this case, the overriding consideration is that we've got two really compelling security imperatives: stopping terrorism and keeping our data and devices secure. And it seems like the device and the data security has to win out, just because that seems to be the more important and more pressing priority, not to mention the fact that giving the master key will won't even necessarily work. As I mentioned, terrorists could just go use a third-party application, and then the FBI still doesn't have the answer it wants.
Here's the thing, though. That application, telling Apple they have to create this operating system or whatever, that's also unprecedented in my estimation. You're telling a company they have to create something to help us, gain access to. Maybe it's not unprecedented. To me, it sounds very unusual. I'll give you 20 seconds for the last word.
You got it. Yeah, no, I'll quickly say that I think that's exactly what Apple's arguing, and I think there's a good amount of people who support that sort of take, that you're forcing us to create software. Apple's even saying that since coding, the software is a form of speech, the government may even be forcing them to speech, and they're raising a First Amendment issue. So there's many, many different issues involved here. In some ways, this is unprecedented. It's going to be a difficult issue, and we'll see if looks like Congress is interested in taking up the topic.
Well, there you go. All right. Greatly appreciate David and Sarah. Appreciate your time today.
Thank you.
There you have it. All right. We're going to open the phone lines for a couple of minutes, couple of shots open if you want it. 888-900-9966. 888-900-9966 is the free-for-all common sense hotline. Bring it on, my friends. Bring it on. It's the Steve Gruber Show. It is Wednesday, and we'll be right back. To it. Quickly, we're going to go to the Common Sense Hotline. We'll start with John in Portage. John, welcome to the program. What's on your mind?
Steve, the attorney, and I think it was an attorney that was explaining the search and seizure issue, has made it a little too convoluted. It's clearly there's a basis for it. He's correct that you need authority. The only thing that the government has a right to get is the information. It doesn't have a right to get the process that Apple has for getting into its phones, okay? Apple can get them that information without giving them the process. There is a basis for getting the information because this was a phone, number one, that was used as part of a crime. Number two, the people that used it are dead anyhow, okay, so they can't exercise that right. And number three, the phone actually belongs to the county.
That's all true, but they were trying to say that the Apple had to create a new system, a new operating system to give them access. So there you go. All right, let's see here. Quickly to Roger in Boyne City. Roger, what's on your mind? Roger, you there? All right, Craig in Grand Rapids. Let's go right down the line. Craig in Grand Rapids, what's on your mind today? Good morning.
I'm in Lansing if you're talking to this, Craig.
That's all right, Craig. Go ahead. What's on your mind?
Well, I just don't know how anybody thinks it's reasonable that you get served a search warrant for something that doesn't exist, and you must produce this item that doesn't exist through involuntary servitude. That it just doesn't make any sense. Imagine if you made like widget safes, and the government came to you and said, "Okay, we're forcing you to give us the code for your lock, which in turn will make your safe still hold stuff, but your lock is not going to be worth anything to your customers."
There you have it. There's both sides of the argument. Craig, thanks for stopping in. Between John and Craig, there's two different sides of the argument right there. And that's why we are having the conversations here. I tell you what, let's continue the conversation tomorrow right here, same place. It's the Steve Gruber Show. Have a great day, my friends.